G'day, guys. Welcome. Let's take a look at the year of Jesse Motlop. Let's get stuck straight into it. 18 years of age. He'll be 19, not until the 23rd of November. Played the 20 games so far this season. He's obviously played the 12 in the seniors, and he notched up 8 in the VFL, including a final on the week against the Pies. And I'm assuming he'll add another game to that when our VFL team take on Brisbane this week. So we knew he was taken with pick 27 in last year's national draft, which was our first live pick in that draft. We gave up our top 10 draft pick to Adam Chera. There's a little bit of irony about that because Jesse Motlop was part of the Fremantle's Next Generation Academy. And they couldn't match that bid in the top 40. So we landed him. And I'm pretty sure that the Dockers were well and truly into Jesse Motlop, and for good reason, I would have thought. I like to have a look at the draft. And only, look, there's only a very, very small sample size one season. But I like to look at the players after the pick that we got our player with. And the pick immediately after us was Tyler Sonsie from the Tigers at pick 28. And we'll probably see Tyler Sonsie potentially play maybe a final or two for Richmond. He's been quite impressive. But apart from that, I think we'd be pretty bloody happy with what we've seen so far from Jesse Motlop. He is contracted until the end of 2023. Be interesting to see how quickly they want to tie Jesse Motlop up at the football club, considering he is a boy from Western Australia. And I would assume there will be some interest in him to go home at some stage. Let's have a look at a snapshot of his first year at Princes Park. And started in the VFL. Had a relatively smooth transition across the pre-season at training. Didn't appear to have any sort of injury concerns, but started in the VFL, which we thought he would. Had a really good performance against Box Hill. Might have been even in his second or third game at VFL level where he kicked 4 goals, 1. But he still had to wait a little bit of time to make his debut, which was round 9 against GWS on the road. And he replaced Jack Martin. He got his opportunity because Jack Martin went out injured. And it was the first time we saw, I suppose, that mosquito fleet of Owies, Durden, Fisher and Motlop all play together. There was no Harry in that game either. And the youngster, he kicked a goal in the third quarter at the 3-minute mark and had 9 disposals and showed a few little things in that game. And we really, I suppose, experimented in that game because there was no Harry. And we really had to use that mosquito fleet to kick 105 points. So there was an even spread of goal kickers. Played the next 2 games. Was okay in the win against Sydney the following week at Marvel Stadium. Then extremely quiet in the loss against Collingwood at the MCG. And we had the bye. And then he was omitted for the Essendon game. And no surprise, Jack Martin came back in. And there was a couple of others as well who came back in. I can't remember exactly who came back in, but unfortunately for Jesse Motlop, he had to go back to the VFL. Spent a couple of weeks back there. To be honest, when he went back, his form at VFL level was pretty bloody ordinary, to be perfectly honest. And in that time, he played the 2 games and only had 5 and 6 disposals respectively against Essendon and Footscray. No goals, didn't hit the scoreboard in both of those games, but came back into our AFL team for the round 15 clash against Fremantle, which was a win. And coincidentally, Owies and Martin were out and went out injured. He only had 5 touches in that game, but he laid 5 tackles. It was a really good defensive effort from Motlop in that game. And he remained in the team for the rest of the season, which is a fair effort, and 9 consecutive games to round out the year. Let's have a look at some of his stats. Now, let's put it into context here, guys. This is, a guy playing his first season in a really difficult position on the ground. Um, you know, it's often a really selfless position, as much as that seems like a bit of an oxymoron, considering the small forwards like to kick goals. But it has become a really selfless position off the ground. So let's not get too carried away with some of these stats. So, but he played the 12 games at AFL level, averaged 8.3 disposals across those 12 games, which is a below average. Tackles inside 50, 1.5, which is average. Goals, 12 goals, 6 average, so averaging 1 goal a game. Kicking efficiency rated as average, not too bad though at 63%. Contested possession rates rated average, which is okay. Goal assist score involvements below average, and pressure acts above average. So I think I think the tackles inside 50 and also the pressure acts sort of suggest that he's just not a one-trick pony, a guy that can hit the scoreboard. He also does have the ability to apply some terrific defensive pressure, which is really important for small forwards in the modern game. Let's have a look at his VFL stats. 8 games, slightly higher average in regards to disposals at 12.6, and laid 3 tackles a game, which is a little bit up. Goals, 7-5. Not great on the scoreboard at VFL level. Considering he kicked 4 in one game, there were actually 4 games he didn't hit the scoreboard at all. So, yeah, best disposals at VFL level. He had 18 against North Melbourne. I've mentioned the fact that he had a day out against Box Hill, where he kicked 4 goals, 1 at the start of the year. At AFL level, I think, look, he showed flashes in just about every game he played, flashes. But I think his best 2 performances, or the ones where, for me, he really stood out, was the St Kilda loss where he kicked 3 goals. And it wasn't just the goals. I think in a game where we were really disappointing, and I mean really disappointing, it was great to see one of our youngsters really stand up. And I thought he was good that night. He did a couple of really standout things. He tackled hard, and he was a shining light. And I think the last game of the year, although he didn't win a lot of the ball, I just think you see a little bit of a snapshot into the future with that third quarter. I think he put us in front from memory, and then he kicked another goal in that third term. And it just showed a little bit about this guy in terms of embracing the big stage, in front of a big crowd, 18 years of age, and being able to do that. I don't know, showed a tremendous amount of poise and confidence as well. Let's have a look at some of his strengths. Cat-like reflexes. I don't particularly want to compare him to or liken him to Shy Bolton, but he's got those cat-like reflexes with that agility. I would hope he could turn into something like Shy Bolton. He can jump. We've seen him try and take a few speckies. In time, will we see that? He's got tremendous flexibility and agility. He's got that ability to sort of weave his way out of traffic. I think he's got good forward craft, forward nous. First year, 12 games, averaging a goal a game. He knows where the big sticks are. He's got a flair for that. I think he's got quite neat skills. Quite a nice kick, good hands. I think he's clean below his feet, and I think he's not overawed at all. I think he shows a terrific amount of confidence for a young player, and I hope that grows. Very hard to identify weaknesses at this stage, but I think in time, obviously strength, he'll need to really improve his strength. When you're 18 years of age and you're playing against bigger bodies, and he's not a small boy, he's got big, strong-looking legs, and I think he's going to, in time, become a really solid unit. He was, as you would think at that level, he was sort of pushed out of the way for periods of time. But for me, the one area, and I don't even know if it's a weakness at this stage or an area for improvement, is production and output. 8.3 disposals a game averaging. The score involvements and assists are quite down. You know, what can he come in terms of output and production? Is he just going to be pure impact? Hit the scoreboard a couple of times, or is he going to increase that disposals? Is there opportunity for him to push up the ground, possibly go into the midfield? Not regular stints in the midfield, but can he push up the ground and be a bigger ball winner and have a bigger impact throughout the game? It is a position where players do float in and out of the game, and there's sometimes where small forwards will not have many possessions at all, but still have an impact offensively. But I want to see where he can get to in regards to being one of an elite small forward of the competition. So we look at the likes of the output and production of a Tom Papley or a Tyson Stengel this year, or a Keziah Pickett, and that's where I'd love to see him get to. I think out of the three that we've got, Owies, Motlop, and Durden, I would like to think that this kid has got the capabilities of being the standout out of the three. And time will tell. Myth. I think it was a bit of a myth that he was tied late in the year. He's got to go out. He's had enough. I just think it was a bit of a myth. I think the modern game. I think professionally well-run club. I think we managed him pretty well. The fact that he played a VFL game on the weekend, it looked fine. He'll probably travel up to Brisbane once again. I don't think he was tied, played 9 consecutive games, and the way he performed in that last game against Collingwood suggests that he wasn't tied. There's no doubt youngsters, first year in the AFL, it's a big year for him, but I just don't think he looked tied as such. I just think it's a big step up, to be, I suppose, involved in the game for a consistent period of time. One word for Jesse Motlop. I've got footprint. And what I mean by footprint is it a big footprint that we've seen this year, or a small footprint? But it's definitely a footprint. It's definitely a footprint. How big? I'm not quite sure, but there's definitely something there. I think he's made a mark already, and a good one. I'm going to give him a 5.5 out of 10 for his year. That might appear a little bit low, but I'm not underrating or overrating his first year at all. I think there were times where we thought he could have gone out of the team, and there were times where we were surprised that he held his spot, but there were also times where we went, wow, this kid has got something. The fact in those 9 consecutive games there was no Rising Star nomination, but at the same time he did enough to suggest he could in fact have a bright future at the football club. And the fact that it's his first year, tough position to play, selfless, and particularly at Carlton, we saw our small forwards work really hard defensively up the ground, particularly when we lost the likes of Jacob Wiedering, and our defence was under a lot of pressure. I mentioned before there could be some interest very shortly if he continues to show a bit from Western Australia. So we would like to see him locked away as ASAP. Finally, I think this year was a success for him. It has to be a success, but I think he got probably more opportunities than he probably warranted, just for the mere fact that we did have a number of injuries in the spots that he plays. And it talks about the likes of Jack Martin and Matthew Owies, who spent a considerable amount of time, particularly Martin, on the sidelines, and obviously Owies missed that fair chunk. I think the good thing was, though, he made the most of those opportunities, and the fact when push comes to shove at the end of the year, for that Pies game, for the Collingwood game and the Melbourne game, and when Owies and Martin came back into the team, Motlop survived, and so did Durden. They all survived. They were all there, and Fisher as well. So that was good. But maybe the fact that we were also down a little bit in the midfield meant more opportunities arise for Jesse Motlop. Tell me what you think, guys. I was impressed with his first year, but as I said, I'm not getting overly carried away at this stage. Hopefully a big pre-season for Jesse Motlop. and he comes back and can remain a permanent fixture in our best 22. Tell me what you think of Jesse Motlop's year. Speak soon.